Good morning, my name is Kyla Saunders,
And I'm Devin Shaw.
and today our segment will be about Chairman Mao Zedong and the Cultural Revolution.
Mao Zedong was born December 26, 1893 in Shaoxing, Hunan Province.
He was the son of a former peasant who became an affluent farmer and grain dealer.
At the age of 8, he attended his native village primary school where he acquired basic knowledge of Confucian classics. By the time he was 13, he was forced to work full-time on the family's farm.
Shortly after a turn of events, he began rebelling against his parental authority. He proceeded to leave his family in order to study at a high primary school in the country nearby, and he attended a secondary school in the provincial capital, Shanghai.
While in school, he came into contact with new ideas from the West, as formulated by such political and cultural reformers of Ling Keqiao.
He began studying the revolutionary ideas with real revolution took place right in
Mao
front of him.
Zedong had always been a man of curiosity, power, and interest.
For a year, he drifted between several careers trying to find a steady job. Ultimately, he ended up studying in a secondary school and then spent some months reading the classical works of Western liberal traditional and the provincial library. He began studying revolutionary ideas when a real revolution took place right in front of him.
After his completion of school, Mao went to enlist in the Revolutionary Army in Hunan, where he spent 6 months as a soldier.
By the spring of 1912, China had given birth to a new republic that marked the end of Mao's military career.
For a year, he drifted from one thing to another, trying to enter a police school, a law school, and business school. He studied history in a secondary school and then spent some months reading many of the classic works in the Western liberal tradition in the provincial library.
The abolition of the official civil service examination system in 1905 and the piecemeal introduction of the Western learning, so-called modern schools, had left people in a state of uncertainty as to what type of training, Chinese or Western, could best prepare them for a career for service to their country.
Mao eventually graduated from the first provincial normal school in Changsha in 1918.
While officially
While officially an institution of secondary level rather than of higher education, the normal school offered a high standard of instruction in Chinese history, literature, and philosophy, as well as in Western ideas.
While at the school, Mao also acquired his first experience in political activities by helping to establish several student organizations.
The most important of those was the New People Study Society, founded in the winter of 1917 to 18. Many of those who members were later to join the Communist Party.
From the normal school in Changsha, Mao went to Peking University in Beijing. The half year he spent there working as a librarian's assistant was of disproportionate importance in shaping his future career, for it was that he came under the influence of the two men who were to be the principal figures in the foundation of the CCP, Li Dixiao and Qin Duxu.
He found himself at Peking University precisely during the months leading up to the May 4th movement of 1919. This took place in China ensuing half of the century.
In a limited sense, May 4th movement in the name given to the student demonstrations protesting against the decisions at the Paris Peace Conference to hand over former German concessions in Shandong province to Japan instead of returning them to China. But the term also evokes a period of rapid political and cultural change beginning in 1915. It resulted in the Chinese radicals' abandonment of Western liberalism, of Marxism and Leninism as an answer to Chinese problems, and the subsequent founding of the Chinese Communist Party in 1921.
In the summer of 1919, Mao Zedong helped to establish in Shanghai a variety of organizations that brought the students together with the merchants and the workers, but not yet with the peasants, in demonstrations aimed at forcing the government to oppose Japanese. His writings at the time are filled with references to the Army of the Red Flag throughout the world and to the victory of the Russian Revolution of 1917.
That winter, he married Yang Kaohu, the daughter of his former ethics teacher. In July 1921, he attended the first Congress of the Chinese Communist Party together with the representatives from the other communist groups in China and two delegates from the Moscow-based Comintern. In 1923, when the younger party entered into an alliance with the Sun Yat-sen's Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, Mao was one of the first communists to join the Nationalist Party, to join within it. During the first half of 1924, he lived mostly with his wife and two infant sons in Shanghai, where he was a leading member of the Nationalist Executive Bureau.
Pursued by the military, Governor of Hunan, Mao was forced to flee his native once more, and he returned for another year to an urban environment. The main power base of the Nationalists, however, though he lived there, Mao still focused his attention on the countryside. He became the acting head of the Department of the Nationalist Party, in which he edited its leading organ, the Political Weekly. But he also served at the Peasant Movement Training Institute, set up in Guangzhou, under the Nationalist principle of the Sixth Training Session.
Moving on from Mao's early life, he is more commonly known for his role in the Cultural Revolution.
The Cultural Revolution took place in 1966 in China.
The purpose of Cultural Revolution was so that Chairman Mao could reassert his authority over the Chinese government. In doing this, he recruited the youth of the nation to purge the city.
It is believed that 60 to 80 million people were killed during the Cultural Revolution.
Today, we have Red Guards and intellectual population from China to tell their story.
First, we will have an apology from Yun Zing.
I have lived a life haunted by guilt. In 1966, I was one of Chairman Mao Zedong's Red Guards. Myself and millions of others, middle and high school students, started denouncing our teachers, friends, family, and raiding homes and destroying other people's possessions. I love textbooks explaining the Cultural Revolution, in which hundreds of thousands of people were killed and millions more abused and traumatized. As political movement started and led by Mao by mistake, but in reality, it was a massive catastrophe for which we all bear responsibility. On May 16, 1966, I was practicing calligraphy with my 37 classmates when a high-pitched voice came from the school's loudspeaker, announcing the central government's decision to start what it called Cultural Revolution. It was my first year of junior high. I was just 13. Fellow students, we must closely follow Chairman Mao, the speaker bellowed. Get out of the classroom, devote yourselves to the Cultural Revolution. 2 boys rushed out the door, heading to the playground, yelling something. I left more slowly, holding hands with my best friend Hyun as we followed everyone else outside. It would be my last normal day of school. As Red Guards, we subjected anyone perceived as bogus or revisionist to brutal mental and physical attacks. I regret most what we did to our homeroom teacher, Zhang Jilin. I was one of the most active students, if not the most revolutionary, when the class held a struggle session against Miss Zhang. I pulled accusations out of nowhere, saying she was a heartless and cold woman, which was entirely false. Others accused her of being a Christian because the character G in her name could refer to Christianity. Our groundless criticisms were then written into big character posters, a popular way of criticizing class enemies and spreading propaganda. 60 of them in total, which covered the exterior walls of our classroom building. Not long after, she was sent to the cowshed, a makeshift prison for intellectuals and other bogus elements, and suffered all kinds of humiliation and abuse. It wasn't until 1990 that I saw her again. During the class trips to the Great Wall, we made a formal apology to Ms. Zhang, then in her 80s, for what we had subjected her to. We asked what had happened to her in the cowshed. It wasn't too bad, she said. I was made to crawl like a dog on the ground. Hearing this, I burst into tears. I was not yet 14, and I had made her life a misery. She died 2 years after our apology. At the height of the movement in 1968, people were publicly beaten to death every day during struggle sessions. Others who had been persecuted threw themselves off tall buildings. Nobody was safe, and the fear of being reported by others, in many cases our closest friends and family members, haunted us. At first, I was determined to be a good little Revolutionary Guard, but something bothered me. When I saw a student pour a bucket of rotten paste over our school principal in 1966, I sensed something wasn't right. I headed back to my dorm quietly, full of discomfort and guilt, thinking I wasn't revolutionary enough. Later, when I was given a belt and told to whip an enemy of the revolution, I ran away and was called a deserter by my fellow Red Guards. That same summer, I caught a glimpse of Chairman Mao, our Red Sun, at Tiananmen Square, along with 1 million of other equally enthusiastic kids. I remember overwhelmingly feelings of joy. It wasn't until much later that I realized my blind idolization of Mao was a kind of worship even more fanatic than a cult. My father, a former war correspondent with state news agency Xinhua, was framed as a spy and denounced. But behind closed doors, he warned my brother and I to use our brains before taking action. Don't do anything you will regret for the rest of your lives, he said. Slowly, I began to hate Miles' wife, Jean King, who was a key leader of the revolution, and I bowed grudgingly when my work unit had our mandatory daily worship ritual in front of the chairman's image. My generation grew up drinking wolf's milk. We were born with hatred and taught to struggle and hate everyone. Some of my fellow Red Guards argued that we were just innocent children led astray, but we were wrong. It pains me that many of my generations choose to forget the past, and some even reminisce about the good old days when they could travel the country as privileged, carefree Red Guards. I do not confess because I committed fewer sins or experienced fewer hardships than others. I bear responsibility for many tragedies and abuses, and I can only express my regret to those who lost their loved ones during the Cultural Revolution. But I do not ask for forgiveness. I want to tell the truth of the Cultural Revolution as someone who lived through the madness and chaos, to warn people of the spectacular destructiveness so that we can avoid ever repeating it. 50 years on, however, I am worried about the increasing leader worship we see in the state media, similar to the ideological fervor that surrounded Mayo. We must stay vigilant. We can't have the gruesome brutality of the Cultural Revolution start again.
I want to thank our classmates for preserving these precious photographs and thank Hong Jin for putting them out in public. That period is a difficult time to look back upon, but those are the days we'll have to face our whole lives. As a student leader at number 8 middle school and the director of the school's revolutionary committee, I bear direct responsibility for the denouncing and criticism of school leaders, some teachers, and students. In the early stages of the movement, I actively rebelled and organized the denouncements of school leaders. Later on, when I served as the director of the school's revolutionary committee, I wasn't brave enough to stop the inhumane persecutions because I feared I would be accused of protecting the old ways and being counter-revolutionary. It was a terrifying time. Today, I want to use the internet to express my sincere apology to these people. Number 8 Middle School third season student union is currently organizing a party for school leaders and teachers. I sincerely hope I can represent those who have hurt these school leaders, the teachers, and the students, and express our deepest apologies to them. I want to ask, will our classmates I'm sorry. This is so emotional, but I want to ask will our classmates authorize me to this kind of apology. Recently, you've seen in society a trend of trying to reverse the verdict on the Cultural Revolution. I believe that how one interprets the Cultural Revolution is a matter of individual freedom, but unconstitutional and inhumane violations of human rights shouldn't be repeated in any form in China. If it is repeated, we can't even begin to speak of the happiness of the people, the strengthening of the nation, or the Chinese dream. My official apologies comes too late, but the purification of the soul, the progress of society, the future of the nation, one must make this kind of apology. Without reflection, how can we speak of progress?